Hey, welcome to the second course video for the song Emergence from Sleep Token and their album Even in Arcadia. I'm musically malnourished and you're on my journey to go deep and wide in discovering new music and artists. In these videos, we do a deep dive into the lyrics and meaning behind the music. So we'll get in and see what's going on with Emergence. Now, to begin with, I think the song title obviously matters. And part of it for me, I've been wrestling with this song is whether or not there's another party involved in it. Because much like Look to Windward feels like a reflective song of himself, I'm honestly leaning toward the side that Emergence is very much the same. Now it's challenging because there's language that seems to obviously mean another person, specifically the idea of wrap your arms around me. You might be the one to take away the pain. Nothing else is quite the same as how I feel when I'm at your side. But there also seems to be a lot of language around this idea of emergence of self, an emergence of a better self, a death to this old self, much like we saw some in Look to Windward. And emergence means the process of coming into view or becoming exposed after being concealed. And so with that, feeling like this idea of washing up on Arcadia, this place that is meant to be an Eden-like place, a place of peace, a utopia, but the realization that even in Arcadia, there is still death, there is still struggle, there are still trials. This feeling like, well, now that I'm in this new place in my life, I've left this old thing behind, kind of from the other albums. The reality is you're still you. And you can have breakthrough and you can have growth, but it is a cycle of growth. You will never be completely finished while you're here on this earth, because we're people and we make mistakes and we learn and then we forget, and we have to remind ourselves of things. And honestly, that's kind of the thing in life. As we mature and as we grow, it's not always about learning something new. Yes, that's the case, but it's also being reminded of things we forgot. So maybe you grow in this area of being more patient, but maybe you start to see this slip in being a generous person. You become a little more selfish, and then you kind of divert some attention over here and grow in this area. And sometimes even growth in an area realizes just how much more growth we need. So I am going to do my best walking through this song, but I'm not fully certain, on who exactly we're speaking to. I will lean mostly on the idea of an emergence of self, coming out from under who you were, learning and growing and having this ferocity about that. With that being said, let's get in, and I will not hesitate to be like, hey, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments. Okay. Well, you were laid in verse, living on a promised word. Now, a lot of people, and here, we can go here just to make sure that we're viewing this correctly. Because this doesn't help us much. Here's what I was saying, because a lot of people think it means inverse, like one word, you were laid in verse, as in kind of upside down. This shows us you were laid in verse, I-N-V-E-R-S-E, and I think that's what the lyrics on the other one were doing as well, even though it's kind of hard to tell because it breaks off, but it doesn't have the line to point next. Now, one second. There's a chance the lyrics are in here. They don't always put lyrics within their booklets. Sometimes it's just art. But we'll take a look real quick. I don't know if I've taken this side out yet, so it might be a little stubborn. There we go. It's going to be a big... Oh. Yeah, it's just a poster. Let me make sure there's not another book in here. Okay. Or just making messes. Oh, there's a lot of art on the inside. That's neat. Okay. I do not think we have a lyric book. No, we don't. But to the best of my knowledge, it's in verse, not inverse. And part of this, I wonder if it's pointing back to the previous albums, kind of like what he had already written about. But I'm not certain on that. Well, you were laid in verse seems to me to just point to this idea of you were laid down in song, or it could be in verse as trying to speak about like a type of scriptures, because it does give into living on a promised word. But I also don't know if this is a kind of relinquishing of the past, because it says, I am the rose you relinquished again. This idea of I'm something of value, something beautiful that you let go of. You and I are, see, this is why I feel like this may be a laying down of the past and an emergence into something new. And it could still even be an internal thing. That this other part of him is the rose he relinquished again. I don't know. I lean more toward this being kind of a past thing and emergence into something new, but it feels like it also ties together, because come on, out from underneath who you were. That's what I'm saying is I don't know that there's a switching of perspectives within the song that sometimes goes from him with a person, if you want to take it into the lore of sleep, I still think sleep is indicative of something, possibly a person or an experience. So I really feel like a lot of this just reinforces the idea of the self. You and I are down head first in another world, I heard. Now, when I first saw this as head first, I think I incorrectly was thinking of like putting your head down and getting to work type thing. When I really think this idea of being down head first, which there could be a double on the you were laid in verse, as you were laid in verse, because of the you and I are down head first. I don't know. But the idea of being down head first in another world, I heard, I feel like is a picture of kind of a birth, that a child has to be head first when they're being birthed. And this idea of coming into another world. And I have a feeling we're close to the end. Not 100% sure what he's talking about, close to the end, other than maybe a destroying of the old self so the new self can be born. So come on, out from underneath who you were. Come on now, you know that it's time to emerge. That's the part that I think really solidifies for me the idea of the self. Like you have kind of been oppressed by this self, and now it's time for a new birth, for something better to come forward. So come out from who you were. You know it's time to emerge. It's time to fight. It's time to move forward. It's time for change, that kind of thing. So go ahead and wrap your arms around me. Obviously, this repeats several times. And that's what I'm saying. This is where it gets a little confusing, because if you're trying to emerge or get away from a former self, then why would you have the words wrap your arms around me? Unless it is, because even if you're going to emerge as a new self, you kind of still have to wrap your arms around yourself, if that makes sense. It's not that, it's like, let's just say for argument's sake, dark side of you, light side of you. The embracing of the dark side would be wrapping your arms around the dark side. But if you're saying, I'm kind of putting this dark side to death so that or let's put them like this, right? That the light side comes out from the dark, emerges, and with that person, kind of like, do you wish that you loved me? You kind of have to wrap your arms around yourself, like start there, And so even with the light side of yourself, this idea of go ahead, wrap your arms around me, embrace that new side of me. So I don't know. That's one thought. Now it gets a little crazy. All right. Verse 2. Are you carbide on my nano, red glass on my light bulb, dark light on my culture, sapphire on my white gold? Okay. The language here seems to be complementary. The first time I read it, and I looked at something, somebody had a thought about carbide, because carbide is this strong type of metal. We'll look at that in a second. And nano being something small and kind of fragile. Somebody was saying that if you're looking at it from two oppressing forces, the carbide is like heavy on something that's fragile. But as I've done more digging myself, the carbide on nano, I think, is more of a reinforcement. So look, we might actually, nope, got to go here. Nanocarbides are advanced materials formed by reducing carbide compounds, typically compounds of carbon with metals like tungsten, titanium, or silicone, to the nanoscale, generally under 100 nanometers. They represent a significant advancement over traditional bulk carbides, offering superior mechanical, thermal, and chemical properties. So it seems more like a reinforcement, which continues a theme here of feeling like something that's complementary. So red glass on my light bulb, which I looked up. There are a few things that this could be. Red glass on a light bulb could be red in the sense of emergency, warning. There's also the idea of red glass or red that's helpful to the eyes because it blocks blue light. There's also red glass or red light therapy, which I did find interesting just here, not necessarily red light therapy, but, well, yes, red light therapy, benefits of red light. It says red light therapy offers benefits for skin, healing, and pain by stimulating mitochondria in cells to improve function, leading to increased collagen, reduced inflammation, better circulation. Specific advantages include fewer wrinkles, faster wound healing, less scarring, improved skin tone and texture, and relief from muscle soreness and joint discomfort. Now, the other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, that the song could be pointing to a new person as well, that becomes this kind of healing, helpful factor within his life. So there's a number of different ways that this could be taken. I would lean more toward that side or the side of this internal thing he's continuing to learn and grow. But the idea of red glass on my light bulb seems to mean this helpful factor, this healing factor. Now, this one's really interesting. Dark light on my culture. Now, having gone through, obviously the entire library of music so far, you have that line about UV. Here, let me look it up just so I don't butcher this. It was ultraviolet, right? In higher, where, contrasting scarlet versus ultraviolet. And so having kind of gone through Sleep Token's catalog and, just learning, even though it's still a challenge to understand some of their songs, which is a lot of fun and gives you a lot to think about. When I see dark light, I don't immediately go to like darkness. I go to like UV light, what we would call a black light. And then when I think of culture, my mind immediately goes to like culture as we as a people, the culture, but also knowing kind of the chemistry tie-ins and things like that. I was doing some searching because I kept thinking like culture. I think there's something in science with culture. And I didn't know the best way to describe it. So I started looking around like chemistry, culture, and I thought about lab culture. So check this out. A laboratory culture involves growing microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, or cells in a controlled environment using nutrient-rich media like agar for diagnostics, research, or to study growth conditions. While lab culture also refers to the shared behaviors value. Okay, so yeah, that's not what I'm getting into. But this idea of cultures, the growth of thing on cultures, and black light used in laboratory settings to visualize fluorescent compounds, monitor genetically modified organisms, express GFP, and detect certain bacterial colonies or contaminants that autofluoresce. And so there was a video, we're not going to watch it here. It was actually a scientific video actually going through like the process of using UV light to detect growth bacteria on cultures. And so whether this is another person who's an influence on him or it's the better half that's influencing him, it'd almost be like taking a step back from yourself, metaphorically, and shining this black light on yourself to see like, okay, yeah, we got some issues there. We got something we need to heal there. We got something growing there. And so it is this black light, this dark light, this UV light on his, like he is the culture, the lab culture, and he's revealing the things about himself that need help, or it could be the things that are growing well. I just found that very interesting. Could not mean that, but I'm okay. And then this part, sapphire on my white gold. Now, we could go further into the meanings behind white gold and different things like that. I think we can at least check this out. Thought I had something here about sapphires. No, it's gone. Here, it's not hard to pull up though. Which I think if you take it very simply, it's this setting, this beautiful thing that sits on, not that white gold isn't beautiful, but it almost in a way is incomplete. Obviously, you can have a band or something like that. It's titanium, not white gold. But it almost sounds like this beginning of something, and you are the sapphire, this beautiful thing that the red light to my light bulb. Does that make sense? So I don't know the further we can go about that. Sapphire, though, the symbolic meaning of sapphire symbolizes nobility, truth, sincerity, faithfulness. All right, this gets really interesting. Burst out of my chest and hide out in the vents. I immediately recognized in the song this was an Alien reference with xenomorphs. Hold on a second. I actually have 2 different Alien books. So, fun. So obviously, you may or may not know, this is a xenomorph. And in the Alien lore and in the Alien franchise, I'm not going to pull up a picture because I don't want to get in trouble. But essentially, there are these spider-like creatures that are hatched from eggs. Those latch onto a person's face. they plant an egg inside of the human. And so even if they're killed in the process, if they're detached or whatever, it doesn't really matter. They grip on the person's whole head, cover their face, stick this probe down their throat, and lay an egg inside the human. It's pretty gross. And then in a pretty short amount of time, an alien grows inside the human and bursts out of their chest, then crawls out of their chest. And in generally in the movie or something, they go like, especially in Alien 1, they find a place, they go into the vents of the spaceship and they go hide, and then they actually keep growing, and then they start hunting the humans, things like that. So at first I was like, maybe this is a negative, but if he's tying, you're the carbide on my nano, you're the red glass on my light bulb, you're the dark light on my culture, you're the sapphire on my white gold. It's also believed too by some within the alien lore, not by like us humans, but like literally inside the story. There are some that believe and kind of fight for the xenomorphs, believing they are a higher species, and almost in a way to be somewhat worshipped. And so I don't think that it's a negative thing. I think it is still that rebirth language. You are this better thing to me. You're bursting out of my chest. You're hiding in the vents. You're growing. So I don't know if there's meant to be something about hiding in there, or if it's just to kind of play with the language altogether, that you're going to go and like grow and prosper and things like that. My blood beats so alive. Might bite right through your lens. Now, there were some interesting thoughts on this. I think this honestly continues the alien language, because within the movie, xenomorphs, you can't really see it in any of the, well, you can a little bit, maybe not on the camera. There is a small mouth inside the mouth. In the way that xenomorphs, one of the ways they attack is literally that there is this extension from, so they're terrifying. Their jaws open up, and then an extension piece comes out that has its own mouth and teeth and jaws, but they can shoot it out really fast. And plenty of times in the movies, they'll either shoot it straight through the head of a person, they'll shoot it through the glass of a like a spacesuit. They'll break through the glass. And if you're talking about possibly even the host, so if he was the one, alien burst out, and I don't know, it could be a different person. I was saying if he came and like turned on that person, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. Ultimately, it sounds like, because he's beginning to switch here and into the next verse, to a more of a violent state, which we've seen several times in Sleep Token songs. I think he's ultimately just saying, like, in here, might bite right through your lens, is that idea of, as this alien or this new creature, blood beating alive, I might bite through your lens. Could be, again, that old self of him, but I still think this is all tied to that alien language, and the lens just means the spacesuit type thing. I don't know. There could be more there than that, but that makes most sense to me. It's midnight in my mind's eye, drowning out the daylight. Godspeed to my enemies who've been asking for that call sign. So this, yeah, I don't have a whole lot here. It's darkness. I don't know. It's time for war, even though most people wouldn't fight at midnight or in the middle of the night. But there is obviously this switch to somewhat of a violent nature. Godspeed to my enemies who've been asking for that call sign. Now, a call sign is generally the thing that's given to identify a person. So sometimes I don't think you'd want to give out your call sign or reveal your call sign. This could also be, I've seen some talk of somewhere in this song, a nod to his career as well. So I'm sure there can be some things in there. I don't know if this is a call to those who have been trying to reveal his identity. So like Godspeed, good luck to my enemies who've been asking for that call sign, the revealing of who I am as a person. I think sticking within the nature of the song, well, we could look at it from both those angles. So we'll do that in the next section. But let's stick to this for a second. Godspeed to my enemies who've been asking for that call sign, that if it's almost like somebody's been trying to find out who he is, I'm not talking about him as Vessel, but within the storytelling of this song, to come after him, to get him, to destroy him, keep him down. Like, good luck to those who have been trying to find me. This is where it could, kind of go into a little bit of like the career, the behavior, canines of the savior. So in a sense, this could be a nod to the fans, that if in a way Vessel is like this savior, then the fans are like the canines who will go after people. Glory to the Legion kind of being this, which Legion is generally known, at least biblically. There is an encounter that Jesus has with a man who is demon possessed. And when he asks who he is, he says, I am Legion. We are many, meaning there's this legion. And a legion, it's like 10,000, isn't it? Soldiers? 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers traditionally in a Roman legion. But if we are thinking about this idea of him speaking for a moment to the fans, and then people who are trying to reveal his identity, things like that, the behavior, like what's going to happen. These canines of the Savior, glory to the Legion, the 5,000 to 6,000, whatever, this force, trauma for the neighbors that they're going to cause trauma for those who are around. I've also heard some thoughts of this trauma for the neighbors in the sense of like people playing Vessel's music, Sleep Token's music out like really loud, it becomes trauma. It becomes noise to the neighbors. I know it probably feels like I'm getting a little bit lost in this section because I am, okay? But I'm just kind of exploring what all different possibilities we could go through. I don't have a great way to tie in all of this with this, other than maybe this section is the idea of him making war. So go ahead, wrap your arms around me. It's a repeated section here. All right, verse 3. I've got solar flares for your dead gods, space dust for your fuel rods, dark days for your solstice, dancing through the depths of hellfire on the winds that started from within. Okay. I looked at a few things with this. Solar flares obviously being this phenomena that occurs where solar energy is pushed out, an explosion of sorts. One of them was saying that it's almost like this picture of that which is real or scientific versus that which is manufactured. Because you've got this idea of maybe the idea that solar flares through one perception was this like heavenly phenomena that couldn't be explained, but that we understand what a solar flare is. Then you've got fuel rods, something manufactured, versus space dust. I don't know, man. I was having a hard time reconciling those things. I did find this that I thought was at least helpful. This person says, a solar flare is a destructive eruption of energy from the sun, so not only setting fire to old obsolete belief systems of religion or using a cosmic destructive force that's actually provable and real. Fuel rods are the power source of a nuclear reactor, and space dust, I take it to mean the material the universe and planets were formed out of. So again, a kind of rebelling against the manufactured source of energy, with the universe's true source of energy and creation. I don't really know, man. I don't really know. Dark days for your solstice. Another reference to how the sleep revises in the moon. In this line, vessels offering to do the impossible. He will do anything for sleep. This delves a little bit more into the lore. I mean, it does, carrying on the back of this section, just feel like an aggressive nature. Dark, because solstice, usually it's like winter and summer solstice, right? A solstice is an astronomical event occurring twice yearly, June and December, when the sun reaches its highest or lowest point in the sky, causing the longest day, shortest night, shortest day, longest night of the year. Sun stanza marks the maximum tilt of Earth's hemispheres toward or away from the sun, signaling the peak of summer or winter. So if he has dark days for our solstice, that if it's meant to be, in a sense, like a peak, and if it's solstice that's supposed to be the longest day and the shortest night, then it's maybe this idea of him blacking out, like this, what you think is going to be your longest day, I have a dark day, and then dancing through the depths of hellfire on the winds that started from within. I don't know if this is a nod to Look to Windward. My blood beats so alive, which is a call back up to here, might tear right through my skin. So tell me what you meant by living past your half-life, which is this idea of living past where they thought that he would. So this assumption that he wouldn't have made it to where he is at this point. Yeah. It says, often appearing in contexts like Sleep Token's Emergence lyrics, signifying the endurance of a person or entity beyond their expected peak, utility, or period of intense struggle. Represents moving past a half-lived existence of unfulfilled potential to enter a new phase of freedom or rebirth, which I think is cool. In lockstep with the universe, and you're well-versed in the afterlife. I think it's just this understanding that he's well-versed with maybe the dark, with death, in a sense. You know, I'm sanctified by what's below, no matter what you do, no matter where you go. I don't have a great thought on this one. I think I did find somebody else. So we'll read this. You can see if it resonates with you. Sanctified by What's Below is a lyric from the band Sleep Token, specifically apparition or ascensionism context, which generally refers to finding holiness, validation, or intense emotional purification through dark, deep, or subconscious places rather than traditional high heavenly sources. Suggests being consecrated by pain, earthly desire, the submerged parts of the self, which I think this line and this subconscious, those really resonate with me just through what we've walked through with Sleep Token. So maybe it is the idea that he's sanctified, which sanctified is meaning like made more pure over time by this introspection, which ties into that idea of being versed in the afterlife. And this right here, I feel like flows straight down into this. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, you might be the one to take away the pain and let my mind go quiet, and nothing else is quite the same as how I feel when I'm at your side. See, this is the one that for me begins to contradict my thought on it being a self thing, but I think there are ways to still reinforce that idea. But whatever it is, it seems like a positive force that is trying to rebirth, bring something new about, come on out from underneath, emerge. It's time to, become what you're meant to become. Wrap your arms around me. And it ends with, you might be the one to take away the pain. Let my mind go quiet, and nothing else is quite the same as how I feel when I'm at your side. So, I think we get the big picture of the song. Some of the details, man, they're pretty challenging. Thanks for struggling through that with me a little bit. I'd love to know your thoughts and your comments. If you'd be willing to take the time to share them, I'm more than happy to listen and interact. Thanks for hanging out with me for this one. Beautiful song, incredible writing as always gets us thinking. Hope to see you in the next one. It's reading good.